All right, we're going to, I've got several questions here on 10-6 Form G. I've highlighted them all. It's like 16, 17. I think it's all like 23 through 28 or so. So let's get into it here. Numbers 16 and 17, they are asking you to find the circumference of each circle. So if you recall the way to find a circumference, it is either 2 pi r or pi times diameter. It all depends on what you're given in your circle. Now, in this case, they're asking me to leave my answer in terms of pi. So I don't even really need a calculator at all for this. All I'm going to do, if I take a look at number 16, okay, they've given me the radius because it travels from the center to the side of the circle. So I'm going to use the formula that deals with the radius, which is 2 pi r. And these are essentially the same thing, okay? If you know the radius, you know the diameter. If you know the diameter, it's the radius. Double the radius, you get the diameter. Take half the diameter, and you get the radius. So in this case, because I'm given the radius, it's 2 times pi times 16. But for multiplication, I can rearrange this however I choose. So I can do 2 times 16 times pi, which gives me 32 pi, and the unit is inches. Because they're asking me to leave in terms of pi, I don't have to worry about it. I just attach pi there on the end. Number 17 works the same way. It's actually even easier. In number 17, the whole piece here is the diameter. So my formula to find the circumference is pi times diameter. Well, my diameter is 22 times pi. In leaving it in terms of pi, my answer is just simply 22 pi. If you multiply this out and you multiply it in your calculator 22 times pi, you probably got 67 in the long decimal. They don't want that. They just want the answer in exact terms, which would be 22 pi. Okay? Moving on here, this is where it gets a little more interesting. This requires you to really take one step further than what we were doing earlier. So in this case, we need to find the length of the darkened arc. So hopefully you could see the darkened arc. I squiggled over it with navy blue so you can see exactly what we're talking about. So number 23, we want to take the amount of the arc measurement. Okay, so in this case, in number 23, that is that 120, that black or thick, dark arc mark, okay, is my 120 degrees. So I want 120 out of 360, and I want to multiply that by 2 pi r because I'm given the radius in this case. Okay, so let's hold off here on the 120 over 36, and let's focus on finding the circumference first. So 2 times pi times the radius is 9 would be 18 pi. That's the circumference. I want 120 out of 360 times my 18 pi. Okay? Now, in this case, okay, in your calculator at this point, so again, the directions say to leave it in terms of pi. So I'm going to just put the pi here, and I'm going to completely ignore it for the rest of this. In my calculator, I'm going to take 120. I'm going to, let's do this. Let's erase the pi for a minute. And this is exactly what you want to type in your calculator. 120, division button, 360 times 18. When you do that, that should give you 6. And then just attach pi on the end of your answer and the units, and you are done. Okay, that's all there is to it. All right, so in parentheses, 120 divided by 360. You can even, well, I'm not going to confuse you. So close that parenthesis and hit times 18. That gives you 6. And then that pi, we just attach at the end because we're asked to leave our answer in terms of pi. Number 24. This one's actually even easier. Okay, they've given me the diameter is 18. So the circumference of this circle is 18 pi. However, I want, so this is, I guess, the only part where it gets tricky. The blue squiggle indicates the arc that I want to find the length of. Well, this is a semicircle, or 180 degrees. And I know that this little piece here is 30. Well, 180 minus 30 leaves me with 150. So now in your calculator, parenthesis, 150 divided by 360 times 18, and then hit enter. It should give you 7.5. And then attach pi there on the end. Okay, so again, all this is you find the circumference and you multiply that by the fraction of the circle that you want. So in this case, I wanted 150 degrees of the entire 360. So that's why my fraction is 150 over 360. And I get that fraction, I multiply it by 18, I get 7.5. And then they want the answer in terms of pi, so I just attach pi there on the end. Let me erase some of this so I have a little bit of room. Okay, number 25. Similar deal here. Okay. Okay, so let's do the circumference first. They've given me the radius. All right. So the radius is 20. So 2 pi r gives me the circumference when given the radius. So it's 2 times the radius is 20 pi, which is 40 pi. That is the full circumference of the entire circle. I don't want that. I want this, this squiggled part of the circle. Now again, the full circle is 360 degrees. The part I do not want is 45 degrees. So I'm going to minus 45 from that. That gives me 315 degrees. So what that's saying is, from this point all the way around to this point is 315 degrees. So I want 315 of, or out of, the 360 degree circle. And I'm going to multiply that by my 40 pi, which I'm going to ignore pi for a minute because in your calculator, all you're going to do, 315, division button 360, close parentheses, times 40. When you hit enter, that should spit out 35, and you attach your pi there on the end. And meters, of course, for your units. Okay? Number 26, very similar to the one we just did, just simply different numbers here. So let's calculate the circumference of the circle first. Now it's important to know here that they've given you the diameter is 24. So your circumference is simply 24 pi. You don't want the circumference, you want only the blue shaded part, which is from here to here. That's the arc length that they're asking for. Okay? Well, the part that they gave you is this part right here, which was 90. So take your 360, subtract 90, and that leaves you with 270. So the arc measurement that you need is 270 degrees. It is from red dot to red dot. So your 24 pi was your circumference. So you want 270 out of the 360 times 24. So in your calculator, 270 division button 360 times 24. When you hit enter, it should give you 18, and you attach pi there on the end. 27, this one's super easy, okay? The circumference of the whole thing is just 16.4 pi. That's the circumference of the entire circle. Well, this is a semicircle, so you only want half of that. So technically, it's 180 degrees out of 360. But that fraction, if you don't catch this, it reduces down to a half. So you really could just do 1/2 of 16.4, which is 8.2 pi. Or, if you want to on your calculator, just type in, parenthesis, 180, division button 360 times 16.4, hit enter, it would give you 8.2, at which point you attach pi on and have your answer there. Okay? Now, this one is probably the hardest. I had the most questions on this problem. So here's the deal, and this is where it gets tricky for a couple things. The first thing I already have noted here is that the 15, and I guarantee this is why most of you couldn't get this right. You thought 15 was probably the diameter, okay? And on this case, I would not do this to you on a test or a quiz, especially given our circumstances, okay? You know, I would make it very clear that this is the radius, And the textbook tries to do that by cheating it being, kind of on like this side of the line. Okay, but nonetheless, the radius is 15, which tells me the diameter then is 30. How'd I get that? Well, 2 times pi times r would tell me the circumference of the circle. They gave me the radius. 2 times 15 would give me 30 pi. That's the circumference of the whole thing. Now, the second part, so I'm going to leave the 30 pi over here because we're going to need that. The second part of this making it challenging is the arc that they want is over here. And they give you this arc as 60. If you think back into the notes, the arc measurement and the central angle, which in this case would be this angle right here, are the same thing. So that angle is 60 degrees. Well, that means that by vertical angles, that's also 60 degrees. Therefore, this arc measurement is also 60 degrees. So you want 60 degrees out of the full 360 times your circumference of 30 pi. Okay, and your calculator just simply parenthesis, 60, division button, 360, times 30, you hit enter, it should spit out 5, and you attach pi there on the end. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, please make sure you reach out to me, and I'll get your question answered as soon as possible.